We'll get to immigration shortly, but first, our roundtable. We have Bill Kristol, editor of the Weekly Standard, Democratic strategist Donna Brazile, talk radio host Laura Ingraham, and Illinois Congressman Luis Gutierrez. Bill, I want to start with you. You called Cantor's loss a verdict against the Republican leadership in Washington, but virtually every other primary leading up to this, Republican leadership figures won. Wasn't this a matter of Cantor losing touch with his district?
Well, it was a matter of a lot of things. It was a matter of immigration. It's ridiculous, the people who are saying, well, immigration wasn't an issue. It was the main issue in the race. A guy who was outspent 25-1. The Cantor campaign spent more on two steakhouses here in Washington, BLT Steak and Bobby Van's, both fine places. You and I have probably been to them occasionally. $168,000 entertaining lobbyists and donors at these two steakhouses, more than Dave Brat spent on his entire campaign. He lost by 8,000 votes, by over 10%. Something was going on there. Cantor was out of touch with his district. Immigration was a big issue, but above all, Republican voters are unhappy with Republican leaders.
Laura, there are people in the Cantor camp that say it was your fault in large measure why this happened. You obviously went down there. You campaigned for his opponent. You used your talk radio show to attack Cantor. I want to have you listen to what Cantor just told me about one of your attacks on him.
A suggestion that I should have been traded to the Taliban for Sergeant Bergdahl really is not a serious contribution to any public policy debate. And frankly, I don't think that it reflects on the people who self-identify as Tea Partiers. I think they reject that kind of notion, and it's just not serious, and frankly, it cheapens the debate.
Well, you know, Eric Cantor, I believe, wouldn't show up at the first Tea Party convention in his own state, which first set him on the wrong path of the Tea Party. I helped give a little bit of a platform to Dave Brat, but this was a win for grassroots activists on the ground in Virginia. Some Tea Party groups locally, national Tea Party groups didn't really do much in this race, didn't really help at all until the very end, a little training that went on. But this was an understanding on the part of the voters. I have a little flyer. This I don't know if the camera can get this. This is what was being circulated in the last several days of the campaign. This is a picture of Eric Cantor with Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. We got 20 million people out of work. They want 20 million new foreign workers in the United States. This was a campaign where the voters understood that if Eric Cantor went back to Washington, that was a green light for immigration reform. They call it that. The voters called it amnesty.
It's so odd, though. I mean, Cantor also had his own flyer saying he was against amnesty. He was standing against amnesty.
He had $5 million to send that one out, didn't he, John?
But I also have to say, I ran into Lindsey Graham right after, Wednesday after election. He said, what is Eric Cantor's position on immigration reform? I don't know. He was hardly a leader of the charge.
He was the well, actually, that's totally wrong. And the interview it was just stunning to watch that interview. He hasn't learned anything. Eric Cantor wrote, he was the co-author of the House GOP Principles on Immigration Reform. Both the New York Times and the Washington Post said that captured the essence of what was in the Senate immigration bill. Luis Gutierrez and Eric Cantor were together in New York.
Congressman Gutierrez, you have been certainly leading the charge for immigration reform. Was Eric Cantor on your side?
I've never had a conversation with Eric Cantor about immigration. I've never had one conversation. Wow. We were at a religious site, a synagogue, in Queens together to talk about the plight of Jews in this country and his own personal experience as a Jew. That is the one time. And I think that it is regrettable. Look, I'll tell you something. If you allow your opponents to say that immigration reform is amnesty, you're going to lose. Right. I am not for amnesty. I am for replacing the legal immigration system with a legal immigration system. Let me just suggest that night, those that want amnesty won that night because they have taken away from the table securing our borders, making sure we have a verification system in this country when somebody gets employed. And when we're watching what's happening in Iraq today, we need an even better system that has checks and balances about who's coming in and who's going out.
So why can't we secure our borders? But Luis, why can't we secure our borders? Why have people who voted against Eric Cantor taken that off the table?
Because if you talk to anybody on the border and talk to them about security, the first thing you need to do is you need to have a legal immigration system that allows people to come here.
So we can't enforce our laws right now.
That's not what I'm saying.
All right.
Yes, you are saying that.
That's not what I'm saying.
We can't enforce our laws.
What I am saying
Luis,
is the following.
But Luis, did you not praise Eric Cantor's principles on immigration that were in the House of Representatives? Did you not praise those principles?
Here's what I said. Here's what I said. I said, as a Democrat, we need to respect the fact that there is a Republican majority in the House of Representatives. And when they put forward those principles put forward by the Republican leadership, I said, I want to sit down at the table and have a reasonable...
Donna, jump in here.
Well, first of all, I was ready to stand in between Eric Cantor and Laura. You know, Laura, I was ready to be, you know, your
he can't
sister,
take a joke
okay?
about the prisoner swap. He has no sense of humor. That's why he lost.
Well, you know, and let me tell you, this woman knows how to throw a punch. So, and I have to tell you, as somebody who was observing this race, like I'm trying to look at all of these primary races. Low turnout. You got to really go out there in these low turnout elections. Although there were a lot more than participated in most primaries, still Eric Cantor did not pay attention to his voters. He lost touch with them, and he spent the morning of Election Day. I mean, this is a very important time to be on the local news, not the national news, the local news at
Starbucks.
No, but he should have been at Krispy Kreme down in his district. He was out of touch. And the Tea Party is still highly caffeinated because the Tea Party is the energy inside the Republican Party. You ignore them, you ignore the base. Well, and that's a problem, and he ignored the base.
I've got to also ask you, you ran a national presidential campaign.
And we lost Tennessee.
Yes.
Hello?
Okay, I know, but look at this. He ran ads, Cantor ran ads attacking Dave Brat by name. This is somebody nobody had heard of. Isn't that like malpractice?
He raised his profile. Yes, we lost him.
Jonathan,
let me add a point on this.
He raised his profile. Yeah. And you know, this was a classic David versus Goliath. Right. What Mr. Brat had, Professor Brat, he had energy, he had a message, and that resonated with voters.
Also, I mean, Eric Cantor ran ads. His political consultants told him this will be clever. Brat's running to your right on immigration and other issues as a true conservative, and you're part of the squished Republican leadership. So attack Brat as a liberal. Why? Because Governor Kane, a Democrat, put him on some advisory board on economic development. Yeah. Pretend you're to the right of Brat on immigration. Yeah, that's what about $1 million of the ads were. But I think it showed a certain contempt for the voters, and it backfired.
And Jonathan, on Lindsey Graham, you made a Graham point. This has to be corrected. There were 6 opponents of Lindsey Graham in that primary. Not one of them ran on the issue of immigration. None of them ran the Dave Brat campaign, which
I've got to ask
Jonathan, you have to understand this, which was focused on the working class.
Let me just say that.
None of them ran that issue.
One of the major challenges to Lindsey Graham was immigration. And
not in his 6 opponents.
If I could finish, I know you're used to your radio talk show where you get to talk all the time. But this is TV. I get a chance. And it's also ABC. But let me just say the following. Look, the fact is that Lindsey Graham got more votes this time than he did the last time. Now, you want to know
who
he
didn't hide his position.
Let me just say, because he said he was not.
Dollars.
He said he was for replacing our illegal immigration system. But let me, if I could just finish that. And what is essential to it is, I did have conversations with Lindsey Graham. I did support the Senate version of immigration reform, and he defended it before his voters, and his voters resoundingly re-elected him. There are other reasons for the loss of Mr. Cantor.
I want to ask what you accomplished here, though, you and those who pushed Cantor out. You now have arguably a more liberal or more moderate majority leader coming in Kevin McCarthy. And Brad has been elected. This is a PhD in economics who can't tell us his position on minimum wage.
Well, what we know now is that the issue of immigration is a critical issue in American politics.
It is.
I'm not running the GOP. This was let me tell you something, Jonathan. If the results last week were that Eric Cantor won by 11 points, you would be doing this week saying green light to immigration reform. This race shows you the Tea Party's dead, talk radio's dead, immigration reform is dead. You wouldn't be picking out jokes at a rally and saying this got really personal. It would be Eric Cantor is going to be working with people like Luis Gutierrez to find common ground in immigration.
We have to take a quick break.